Today we're diving into something that doesn't get talked about enough, bile acid insufficiency, and more importantly, a compound that could potentially be a total game changer for supporting it, and that is TUDCA. If you struggle with fat digestion, bloating after meals, you might have pale stools, or even unexplained nutrient deficiencies, this could be highly relevant for you. Let's break this down in a practical, simple way. Here we go. So firstly, what is bile acid insufficiency? Well, bile is produced in the liver and stored in the gallbladder. Its main job is to emulsify fats, so that's taking large droplets of fats and breaking them into smaller droplets of fat so that the fats can be absorbed in the small intestine. And without enough bile, fats aren't properly emulsified, and as a result of that, that can create a cascade of digestive issues, including floating or greasy stools, bloating after meals, vitamin deficiency, feeling heavy or sluggish after eating meals, particularly after eating high-fat meals. So if you have a propensity to rush over to some outlets that sell chicken nuggets, be aware that that will be causing you a problem. But this isn't just about digestion, however. This can also affect your hormones and your detoxification pathways and your gut microbiome. So please definitely pay attention to this symptom profile. What it stands for, bear with me on this one, tauroursodeoxycholic acid. That's like my fourth attempt of saying that. And it is a naturally occurring bile acid. Your body actually produces it naturally. Small amounts of it, but it does produce it naturally. And it's been studied for its ability to improve bile flow, for its supporting liver function, for protecting your cells from stress. And so rather than just replacing bile, what it does do, it helps you move that bile a little bit better. So why can it be a game changer for you? Maybe people think, okay, well, I'm not producing enough bile, so actually I just need to take more bile. And that's why sometimes people take things like ox bile, which can be beneficial for some, but in my experience, it did not do anything positive for me whatsoever. So TUDCA can behave very, very differently. And the reason why it does that is because it improves that bile flow from the liver. It helps that very bile that might be a little bit congealed, it might just not be flowing, it might be very viscous. Well, actually, it will support that from being so viscous to being more runny, for example. So it sometimes can prevent thickness or stagnation of that particular bile as it flows. It can also support bile recycling really, really well, and that is very valuable also. So this is important for bile acid insufficiency because it's not just about low production, it can be about poor bile movement. So if you add ox bile, you're adding more fuel. But if you add TUDCA, you're fixing the engine almost so the fuel can flow a little bit easier through the system. That's why for some people, TUDCA can be like a pretty big breakthrough because it addresses the underlying process rather than just a symptom, which ox bile can do. So, where does the research lie in this? What does it say? Well, it improves bile flow, and this is a big one. So it helps move it from the liver, as I've already said, into the digestive tract more easily and efficiently. So if you've got sluggish bile or it's stagnant, then actually TUDCA can help get things moving really, really well again. And there was a study done by M. Muraka et al. In 1995, which looked at the effect of TUDCA on biliary lipid composition. And it did indeed find that it improved sluggish or the stagnation of that bile. It improved that a lot better. It can protect your liver cells. Amazing. Precisely what all of us need, because as you know, the liver is fundamental for the detoxification process in the body. So if you're improving liver cells, and you're protecting those liver cells, damage in conditions where bile builds up to become toxic. It reduces cellular stress, and that's really very, very important because, of course, you need to have lower amounts of cellular stress to enhance metabolic proficiency. There's a type of stress inside cells called endoplasmic reticulum stress, and that's almost like the internal machinery of that, a cell becoming overwhelmed. TUDCA can reduce that stress, which improves bile flow and indeed how cells function overall. That can only be a good thing. It improves insulin sensitivity. It can regulate bile acid signaling, which might sound complicated, but just stay with me on this one. Okay, so bile acids don't just digest fat, they also act as signals in the human body. And it acts on receptors such as FXR and TGR5, which can help regulate bile production, the metabolism, inflammation. So again, it's not just about adding bile, it's also about regulating the whole system. And this is a really big one. Really big one. It will support mitochondrial function. Now think about what that is. That little organelle sitting in its thousands in your cells, that can help produce more energy, or rather more transfer more energy into a usable form. It protects the mitochondria from damage, essentially. The study done by Khalaf et al. In 2022, a more recent study showing exactly that. It reduces inflammation and cell death, and it's been shown, in particular, TUDCA has been shown to reduce inflammatory signaling and prevent unnecessary cell apoptosis or cell death. That's really important. We don't want that to happen too often in the liver and indeed in the nervous system. And so does it have potentially some therapeutic effects in terms of protecting against neurodegenerative diseases? And the short answer to that is yes, it may well have that. And that again was by Khalaf et al. In 2022. But there is an important caution here that you need to kind of be cognizant of and be aware of. So it's not appropriate for everybody, okay? So that's what I would say. If you've got BAM or bile acid malabsorption, where bile acids are just not being reabsorbed properly, adding more bile salts can in some people trigger a worsening of symptoms. So just be careful with that. It is a very nuanced area. So TUDCA is not hugely, massively efficacious for BAM, but it can be really beneficial for bile acid insufficiency. But again, some people find it very useful for BAM. So it is a nuanced affair because it does have wider effects in terms of anti-inflammatory and liver health and therefore less of a burden on the kidneys and so on and so forth. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but it can be very, very beneficial. But it's important to their context does matter. So how do you take it? You take it with meals, particularly those that contain large amounts of fat. So the goal is to support digestion at the time where bile is needed the most. So it makes sense to have it with a high-fat meal. But again, definitely seek medical counsel. I am not a doctor, so please, my job here is simply to, add a light upon a situation. My job here is to educate you. I am an educator by my trade. And so my job is to add a spotlight on this particular area so that you can go away and have those discussions with your clinician. So to wrap this up, TUDCA has the potential to be a powerful tool for supporting bile flow and improving fat digestion. Remember, if you don't absorb your fats or digest your fats properly, they move into areas later on in the small intestine, which is where they're going to ferment and bubble up, and you'll end up with gas bloating and lots of digestive issues such as small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So be aware it can be really beneficial for helping the treatment of SIBO, for example. But like anything in gut health, it's about using the right tool for the right problem. So if you found this helpful, please do let me know in the comments, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video, hopefully very, very soon. If you want to find us on Facebook, do so on Elite Wellness Warriors. If you want to find us on Instagram, it's the same handle. Wishing you all the very best in health and wellness. And I really look forward to seeing you soon, my friends. All my love to you. Take care. Bye-bye.